prayed every night that he would escape.
What the hell did you do that for?
So I can kill him. The bus crashed.
Michael Myers escaped.
He'll return to Haddonfield, his home.
I need to protect my family.
You have no security system, Karen.
Mom, you need help.
Evil is real.
There's a reason we're supposed to be afraid of this night.
I've been preparing for this for a long time. It is not safe to be on the street tonight.
Go home! Get out of here! Get inside! Michael!
He's here. He is a killer, but he will be killed tonight. Happy Halloween, Michael.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Scary Sci-Fi Sluts podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Kenny, was from Chicago. Now I have relocated to the Pacific Northwest again in Seattle.
And I'm your other host, Brandon, and I am still staying true to Sandy, Oregon, where it is beautiful out here.
All three people in Sandy, Oregon.
Hey, they're just now getting started with the Hood to Coast relay. So if you're running in that, maybe you can listen to us. Maybe it'll get you through it.
Stop by, check out the live studio.
Don't stop by. Do not check out the live studio.
Hey, we got to keep our fans happy, okay? If one of our fans happens to be running the Hood to Coast and they're like, wait a second, one of my favorite podcast hosts lives in Sandy, you got to invite him in. Like, you got a home gym, you got dogs, you got, the podcasting studio, you got it all.
We joke, but that's a possibility someday.
So we welcome any stalkers. I know typically it's not very common for people to do that, but please stalk us. Please show up to our place.
We welcome it.
Well, Brandon, what are we reviewing today?
Well, we are doing things a little bit weird, and we are kicking off the fall season. Well, we're still in August, but we're getting ahead of the game. And we will be reviewing Halloween 2018, directed by David Gordon Green.
So Brandon and I, we chit chat back and forth every now and then with ideas of different things to review. And recently Halloween came up, and we had this brilliant idea that sets us apart from any other reviewing podcast, where we said, what if we did Halloween but backwards? So in anticipation for Halloween Kills that comes out this October, which I'm stoked for, we are covering Halloween 2018 first, and then we're going to slowly go back movie by movie. So next we'd be doing the Rob Zombie sequel, and then the Rob Zombie original remake, and then go all the way down the list till we hit the original Halloween, 1978. Yeah, sounds about right.
Yep, it's old.
Yeah, but I'm very excited to do this. I'm a huge, long-standing Halloween fan. I've always wanted to get a Halloween tattoo. I don't know if I told you that, but one of my best friends growing up, Sherman, shout out to Alex Sherman. That's the wrong series.
No, he's getting stabbed by Michael's knife.
Okay, that's pretty cool. My good friend Sherman growing up, he got me into these movies, and since then I watch them almost routinely every year. It's like a ritual leading up to Halloween. But the tattoo I've wanted to get is I think one of the first movie posters for the first movie it was like a transition of a pumpkin, but then it would slowly turn into Michael's knife. I thought that was really sick. Yeah, really cool
interesting
concept. But yeah, before we even get into it, what's your thoughts on doing the Halloween series? What's your background with it? What's your history with the movie series?
Yeah, obviously pretty sure I've seen the entire series. ever since I was pretty little, maybe more like high school age. I don't think my mom actually would have let me watch these.
Too satanic.
So this is probably something that you introduced me to more than likely in high school. I remember the classics being good like the first time through, but being a little bit slower just due to the age of the film. So I'm kind of glad that we're going backwards because it kind of hypes you up doing the newest one and seeing the filming techniques of today and lighting and directing, and then going backwards to get more of that nostalgia feel.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting going backwards.
I do think it's going to throw us off with a couple of movies, especially with direct sequels. So like the Rob Zombie movies, for example, going from 2 to 1, it might be a little jarring, but we get the gist. We've been with Michael Myers for 40 years now, 40 plus years. So we understand how it goes. And then
I mean, it's going to be like immediate spoilers though.
Whatever. That way, since we're looking at the movies with a more analytical viewpoint this time around, we'll be able to pinpoint more things than maybe if we're just watching it for entertainment moving forward,
Right. So Kenny, why don't you tell us how this movie did and a little bit about the movie?
Well, like we said, this movie came out 2018, directed by David Gordon Green. Those of you who aren't familiar with him, I think his most popular movie was Pineapple Express, which
Nice.
Amazing movie. As someone who's not, into the weed culture, someone who's not a stoner, doesn't do drugs or anything, like that movie, it still kills me. Like
filming wise and like storyline, it kills.
Yeah, the characters are written really well. The story's really, really good. It's like the comedy is it's so natural in a way that like even non-stoners can like still find it comedic and still be a part of the comedy. But then he's also done other movies like Your Highness. I never saw that, but it was kind of like a fantasy comedy parody type movie. Pretty popular in like the indie community. Joe, a movie with Nicolas Cage, which I surprisingly haven't seen yet. I remember Brian telling me about it. He really liked it, but I've yet to watch that one. And then he's also directed a couple episodes of Mythic Quest, which is a new Apple series with Rob McElhenney. I don't know how you say his last name.
McElhenney. How dare you?
McElhenney. I've seen like 2 episodes of it. It's okay. It's entertaining. He's the main character and he runs this like gaming development company, and it's all right. And then Eastbound and Down, which have you seen that before?
I've seen bits of it and a couple episodes. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I think it's one of those shows. It's Danny McBride is the main character, and he's also a writer of this movie. It's one of those shows where like kind of like Seinfeld, where you can just pick up an episode and watch it, and it's pretty funny. Like you don't necessarily have to watch all of it, but yeah, it's a pretty funny show. And David Gordon Green, he produces a lot of the stuff he directs. And doing a little background on him, he started the production studio Rough House, which is one of the producers on this movie. Him, Danny McBride, and another guy named Jody Hill started this production company, and so they produce a lot of the stuff that David Gordon Green works on. And he's actually set to direct a new Exorcist movie coming out in the next year or two, so that could be exciting.
Ooh. Hopefully
it's a new, interesting take, because of course the original Exorcist is a classic masterpiece of the movie. And let's see. So this movie came out October 19th of 2018 with a budget of $10 million. So nothing of a budget. That's what's so great about horror movies is they cost next to nothing to make. Mm-hmm. And I say next to nothing. Of course, it's not like an indie movie that'll cost $500,000, $1 million to make. But
compared to Marvel, that costs like $1 billion or however much.
Right. You look at big name movies now, and the average blockbuster movie will cost like $200 million plus to make. So $10 million with a return of $255,614,941 worldwide. So
Yeah.
It was a powerhouse at the box office.
Yeah.
That's pretty insane. And it's nowhere near numbers like It Part 1 made, I think, like almost $1 billion, of like 700 million or something. Some crazy number with like a $50 million budget, I want to say. Somewhere around those numbers.
But still, something like 255 million, that's like what, 1,000% interest return?
I ain't gonna do the math. It's something crazy.
Someone out there do the math.
Yeah, one of our listeners, please do the math and then put it in the comments for us. Correct us. Director of photography or cinematographer for the movie was Michael Simmons. He's done some work, not a crazy amount, but he's done other projects like Project Power, which was a recent Netflix movie. He did a movie called Nerve with Dave Franco and Emma Roberts. Paranormal Activity 2. So this guy was doing stuff like all over the place as far as content. And then the movie was written by Danny McBride, so the star of Eastbound and Down, and Your Highness. So he works with David Gordon Green pretty frequently. He was in Pineapple Express. Really funny actor, and I guess he's been dipping his toes more and more into writing, which is cool because it seems like he has kind of a flair with his writing style. He likes to put in a lot of comedy. Also written by David Gordon Green, and then Jeff Fradley, who is a frequent a co-writer with David Gordon Green, and he's worked with him and I think Danny McBride on Vice Principals, which is another series. And then produced by Blumhouse, Miramax, Nightblade Holdings, Rough House, Universal, and Truncus International. And this is the first Halloween movie that was produced by Blumhouse, which I think is very interesting because Blumhouse is kind of like a big name for low budget horror movies that tend to be decent in quality for the most part and like yield a lot of return. So it's just interesting to see Blumhouse dip their toes in the Halloween franchise.
I wanted to ask you something real quick, Kenny, to get kind of behind the scenes of filming. When we talk about producers like Blumhouse and Miramax and all those, are they just like the money behind the scenes, or do they have a say in what happens?
So it's both. It usually depends on like how much money they put in. If they're like executive producers, for example, versus just a regular producer. And yeah, typically it's kind of like investors. Like if you have investors for a business, that's exactly what producers are. They, the director, the writer, whoever, their agent will come up with a pitch. Like, hey, we have this movie, we have this idea, it'll cost about this much, this is what we want into it. Then producers will be like, okay, we're going to fund your movie. And then some producers, they're like really hands-on and they're like, oh, I want this to be in here. I want you to take this out. Like, make sure you include this type of thing. So I never really know like how much influence producers have on a movie. It's always interesting to like think about. Sometimes if you see big name actors in a movie franchise, like take Black Widow, for example, Scarlett Johansson was executive producer on the Black Widow movie. And because she had that level of star power, that level of money, that level of like recognition, I'm sure she had a lot of say on how that movie went in portraying her character. But if you go to a smaller movie, like for this movie, for example, Jamie Lee Curtis and John Carpenter are executive producers. Even though this is a smaller budgeted movie, I'm sure that they had a lot of creative say on where the characters went, where the story went. Because they're the mainstays of this franchise since the very start. So
that's when we get into other movies where like the producer tries to take over and then the movie flops, or other successes where they just were totally hands off and they trusted the director to
Justice League.
That is.
Oh man.
I think more recently though, whoever the guy was that just did Suicide Squad, what's his name?
James Gunn.
Yeah. I think they gave him full the creative power, and they didn't touch a thing.
Because they realized, hey, last time when we fucked the Suicide Squad movie, we gave them a couple weeks to write the script, and then basically changed the entire movie, same as Justice League. Yeah,
it's weird. I think they're learning, but it took a while.
Yeah, hopefully. Let's see. Yeah, so we can get into a little bit of IMDb trivia or anything we pulled up on the web. Do you have anything you want to go over? Go over some trivia facts.
There's a lot of long-winded ones that we won't get into. But some cool creative ones are the film was released in the UK and USA the day that Michael Myers was born, which was October 19th.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
This is the highest grossing Halloween film in its opening weekend. Michael is 61 years young in this film.
You know what they say, 61 going on 16, right?
Some weird ones like, I think, let's see. Shit, I just lost it. Oh, the two kids that we'll see later in the movie when they're trick-or-treating, I believe is Dick Warlock's real son. So a couple of the actors, they use their real family members.
Cool. Dick Warlock, of course, played Michael Myers, one of the people.
The filming lasted 28 days. It's kind of a interesting, 28 days later, nod to that.
It's crazy how quickly they can shoot a movie like this. 28 days, if you think about it.
Insane.
Like 28 days ago, I was still doing the same shit. Like, these people made a movie.
Oh, that's creepy. Actor James Jude Courtney, who plays Michael Myers as well, because there's two actors for this, consulted with real-life killers on how to kill people to make his performance believable.
Interesting. Method actor.
The very first Halloween film shot digitally instead of on film. Jake Gyllenhaal actually helped convince Jamie Lee Curtis to reprise her role. Jake Gyllenhaal is a family friend of Curtis.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Let's see, anything else? It's a lot. This is like 8 pages long, so go ahead and just scroll through when you have a couple hours.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I'm sure if you're a fan of this franchise, you knew this going into the movie, or maybe it was revealed to you when you actually saw the movie for the first time. But of course, this movie is known for kind of disrupting the franchise, disrupting the timeline. It's basically a direct sequel to Halloween 1. It ignores everything from Halloween 2 all the way forward, which I think was a really interesting choice. Personally, being a fan of all of the Halloween movies, there's definitely some better ones. There's definitely some lower tier ones. I thought it was a really unique take on the franchise. It's a really unique way to put more energy into it to make it feel fresh and then start somewhere new. They didn't have to do that. They could have just stayed along with it, like, oh, everything that's happened has happened, and all the family ties between Laurie and Michael and all the whatever, the cult of druid stuff, like they could have went with all that. But I think it was a really good way to ground it more, bring it back down to what the basis of the first movie was. So
without doing a full reboot, I think that really helped just continue it on and get right back in the game.
Yeah. So are you a fan of like them doing that, or do you think they should have stuck with what they had already set up in the past?
I think I am. I mean, I haven't watched this series in a very long time, so I'm not as, like, I don't remember as much of it as you do. So now just listening to you explain how, did they get into druids and like magic in this?
Oh yeah.
So that's how he would stay alive in the other ones?
Sort of. I'm excited. If you don't remember, I'm excited for us to go back and you to see it then.
So yeah, just coming at it as like a 2018, 2021 now stance. I think it was a smart move.
Yeah. And then, of course, this movie was actually announced as a trilogy. pretty much right off the bat, I think, or maybe right after released, and they got all the positive reviews and it started making a lot of money. They announced that David Gordon Green, Danny McBride had actually planned for this to be a trilogy. So the sequel, Halloween Kills, coming out this October, but it's actually been delayed quite a bit. It was supposed to come out last year, but of course, due to everything going on with the global pandemic and stuff, they had to push it back. And but I'm excited to see it in theaters. Just everyone backs up so we can just go to the movies. That's what I want. Like,
yeah, Danny McBride actually had mentioned how it was planned to be a back-to-back two-parter. So it would have come out right next to each other, but they said they wanted to release the first one and just do a trilogy. That way that they could learn from their mistakes and kind of grow going forward, which I think is really a good decision.
Yeah, because as you know, as great as this movie is, there are some mistakes. And we'll get into that.
And they're picking up this long-winded movie that, has been around now for 40 years. So if they would have just jumped into it, and I mean, the last one came out in 2007 to whenever that third one came out.
2009, I think, was Rob Zombie.
Okay.
His sequel.
But to pick it up right after like about 10 years and to try to do a back-to-back, that would have been really risky. So
yeah,
I think they were really smart to go slow and try to learn.
Yep.
And do a service to the fans.
One more little trivia note that I wanted to add in before we start digging into the movie. So they have the really famous degrading pumpkin intro title sequence for this movie, and it's not degrading, it's actually regenerating, and I thought that was so fucking cool. So they did it practically. If I remember correctly, I remember watching some type of like short documentary thing about how they did it. They basically set a camera in front of a pumpkin and then just time lapsed it and let it degrade and destroy itself and mold. And then they just reversed it and then sped up the footage. It's seriously so cool. And of course, it's a big symbolism, big metaphor for the movie itself of like resurrection, of like, hey, Michael's back, Laurie's back, this franchise is back and it's here to stay,
Jason, it's time to wake up.
Time to play.
Oh, wrong character.
Wrong franchise.
I thought we were doing a resurrection.
That's, ideas for the next series.
Stay tuned.
One last fact before we get into the plot. Cody Carpenter, who was one of the composers for the movie, and of course he's John Carpenter's son. I think John Carpenter actually had a lot of hands-on with the score as well, and his son and another person, I forget his name, but like revamped the original Halloween music, and man, is it better in this movie. Like, what are your thoughts on the music?
I mean, I thought it just sounded like similar to the original score. I mean, I could tell it was better quality, but I didn't pay much attention to like revamped or the details of it. That's probably more of your end of.
Well, I'd say as soon as we're done recording this, go on YouTube or Spotify or something and play part of the soundtrack and compare it to
the old one.
Compare the new one to the old one. It's insane. Like the original one is more mellow and like mostly piano based and kind of more like gothic. And then as
like upbeat.
Yeah, as the movies went on, they started to add more synth and stuff as, went through the 80s and the 90s, added more synth, raised the tempo a little bit, got more upbeat. And then this one, it's like metal. It's like there's a couple scenes in the movie where there's this fucking killer guitar riff. It's like, and then the music cuts in and it's.
Are we sure Hans Zimmer isn't in this one?
Yeah, he's actually, there's not enough drums actually for Hans Zimmer. He likes his percussion. All right, well, that's that. I think it's time for us to jump into the plot. So how do you feel about just, I have...
You have it broken up.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't really see.
Do you want to talk about some of the actors in this, though? The cast?
Oh, yes. Let's get through that. Go ahead.
Well, There's not that many to go over because a lot of them are just like the background or like the two shape characters. So of course we have Jamie Lee Curtis, and is this top billing down? Do you know? Is this?
I believe so.
I would assume. We have Judy Greer as Karen.
Who would have thought to put
Mati-
Judy Greer in a Halloween movie?
Hey, she killed it. Andy Matichak as Allison. We have James Jude Courtney and Nick Castle as the Shape.
Nick Castle returning to play the Shape. Of course, he was the OG Michael Myers in '78.
Of course. Haluk Bilginer as Dr. Sartern. Will Patton as Officer Hawkins. Rianne Reese and Jefferson Hall as the two podcasters. Dana Haynes and Aaron Corey.
Hey, don't forget about Toby Huss
Yeah, as Ray. I don't
as
know who that is.
Ray. he's. We'll get into that. All right.
Now
so
we can get into the plot.
yeah, so I'm thinking, well, as we roll along in the plot, why don't we just shoot out our comments and ideas of different parts and
Okay.
we can
Playing it a
discuss
little
it.
bit different.
So I'll
I'm
kick
gonna
us
have
off.
to. Well, let me fix my screen here. I'm gonna have to go dual screen.
I always do that. You never do dual screen? Come on.
Well, now I guess I'm technically going triple screen, but
Triple screen. Damn. Brandon with the three-way over here. All right. I'm going to kick us off.
go for it.
The movie starts with investigative journalists. No. Podcasters. No. Investigative journalists. No. Podcasters. Who the hell knows? As even the characters themselves can't make up their minds. Podcasters, we'll just call them that. Aaron and Dana travel to Smith's Grove Sanitarium to meet Dr. Sartain, who is the presiding doctor over the mythical, unkillable, horrific, eyes of a psychopath babysitter murderer himself, Michael Michael Myers.
Sartain tells the podcasters that Myers hasn't said a word in 40 years during his time at Smith's Grove, and that he was the understudy of Dr. Samuel Loomis of legend. He has studied Myers throughout his entire career and is fascinated with his psyche. Although he must be a really crappy doctor if he hasn't learned a thing about Myers in 40 years. Aaron and Dana confront the unmasked Myers and even go as far to egg him on by showing Myers his old mask.
So,
do you have anything to say about these first two paragraphs?
Yeah, I really like this intro. Like, I thought it was a really good way to get us into the environment, to kind of put us in the modern age too. Of course, with two podcasters. I just basically from the opening minutes, I was hooked immediately. And then the way they build tension in this sequence of like them going out to the courtyard and seeing all the inmates in this like really brightly lit, heavy red and white colorings. I just thought it was a very good visual, and they use some really good camera angles and stuff to show the other psychiatric inmates, and they're all like chained down like dogs to these little cubes, so they have their own little sections in the courtyard. And it was like visually just so stunning, and it's really nice when horror movies use bright settings like that. It doesn't happen very often. Like Midsummer, of course, kind of the big popular name that did almost the entire movie in bright daylight. It was just really welcoming, and I really liked it.
Yeah. Getting right into this beginning, I definitely love it when a movie can throw you off and they don't do what you're expecting. There's a couple scenes in this movie where they do that. One is later on when we're inside the compound and they're fighting. And then the other is right here at the beginning when they're interviewing Michael. And when they brought up these yellow boxes that you can't step inside of, otherwise that's like his reaching distance. I thought for sure one of them was going to step over that line and he was going to kill one of them right at the beginning.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
And I loved the opening him trying to egg him on, get him to react,
Mhm.
and even pulling out the mask and then just showing the sheer power of that symbolism and how it drives everyone crazy. And
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was
it,
just so smart. Like such a
it was
well
powerful
done
stuff.
scene there. And of course, I don't know if you caught this, but the podcaster Aaron, when he's talking to Michael, trying to get his attention, holding up the mask, he like says something about how he wants to know how Michael feels about that night. Of course, referencing the night that he killed Laurie's friends. And I think pretty immediately right there, if you're a fan of the series, you can tell that they're already retconning the rest because they're not referencing like, oh, the past 40 years of you killing all these
Right.
people. It's just that night, you've been here for 40 years. You know, without them telling you, like none of that other stuff happened.
Well, yeah, and then going forward, when I think they mentioned his kill count, they say that he's killed like 5 people or
You're right.
something like that, and
Right.
that also retcons the rest because that would be the first movie kills, not going forward.
Right. And then of course it like all the built up tension from the scene of him holding up the mask and he says, Michael, say something, and then it hard cuts to the credits. It doesn't match cut to the pumpkin regenerating. I thought that was just brilliant, like the way that was done. Built up so much tension, so much energy, because you're like the music slowly ramping up and then it's like zooming in on the mask, and it was just really, really well done. After getting no response from Myers, the podcasters then traveled to interview a now aged Laurie Strode, played by the wonderful Jamie Lee Curtis, persuading her with $3,000 to let them into her John Wick style booby trap fortress in the middle of the woods. And sorry to all the fans that aren't, all the listeners that aren't fans of the John Wick series, but pretty much whenever I can see some type of connection or reference to John Wick, I'm going to make it.
It's going to happen a lot.
Yep. Since the night of the murders of her high school friends, Laurie Strode has become a shut-in, training herself and her daughter in survival skills and weapon handling just in case Myers ever escaped his captivity. This led to Laurie being estranged from her daughter Karen, now middle-aged and played by Judy Greer, and her granddaughter Allison, played by Andy Matichak. The podcasters learn little from their encounter with Laurie, as her PTSD from that Halloween night 40 years ago has left her mentally unstable, so they make their way back to Haddonfield.
Hey, Kenny.
I really like, huh?
In what world is Allison spelled with 2 Y's?
Hey, I pulled that. Look at the IMDb. That's her. That's how they wrote her name.
Different up there.
No, look at it. Wait. ALLY. Did I spell it?
Yeah,
Oh, whoops. Allison. How do you feel about the interview scene of them going to her house?
I thought it was pretty good. I definitely liked the character development of, is it Aaron, one of the guys?
Mm-hmm.
And how he explains how like he does not pay for interviews, and then they immediately have to
So
go back
douchey.
to get the interview. Yeah, I thought it was good connection and relationship between the 3 characters and getting into the backstory without telling us anything about the other previous movies, just kind of giving us a refresher of what happened. And I think they played that off really well. And then especially when the other lady, she asks a question, and then what's her face? Laurie gets pissed off because she knows that she already knows the answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how do you feel about their dynamic in this scene though of the 2 podcasters? Like, I felt like Aaron was kind of an asshole. Like he was trying to egg Michael on, like he's looking for a response. I think that's where they played too heavy into his like investigative journalist profession. And when he was asking Laurie questions, it was like he was asking questions just to get a response.
Yeah.
And I guess it's realistic. I'm sure that's what investigative journalists are like, and they're not super friendly, and they're just trying to get all the information out of you. So I just felt
I think he played it. I think he played it cool, and I think it was the right move. Like he's trying to step it up and egg him on to get something out of him, because he knows he only has so much time with Michael and Laurie. So if playing it cool isn't working, you have to kind of push their buttons to get something.
There was a certain part of the script here that I thought was really poorly done. their interaction of them interviewing Laurie kind of ends with Aaron telling Laurie like, hey, we think that, or I really think that if you confronted Michael, like you would end this nightmare for yourself. And it's like, I don't know if they wrote that in there to like dumb it down for the audience. Like clearly we understand this already. As people who are fans of the franchise, especially, like we know that it's always been about Michael and Laurie, these two people going head to head and like confronting each other. And I just feel like it was really unnecessary for them to just flat out say like, oh, you need to confront him and it'll be over. Like we know that we're not, I highly doubt that someone's watching this movie who has never heard of the Michael Myers lore or like never seen Halloween before. Like we know this already. Just cut that out. It's not necessary. Yeah. Outside of that, it was a good scene. And then we get a little bit of a foreshadow of where Laurie's been, and then how she's going to be later on in the movie. I do think though that here and then a little bit later on, they kind of play their cards with where Laurie is too quick. I personally think that they should have left the reveal of Laurie being this badass, militaristic, survivalist trained person 40 years later. They should have kept that to the very, very end. But I feel like they showed it way too quick and they didn't build that anticipation. Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it could have been cooler if they did sneak it and like surprise us with those things. Like we saw that trap bunker thing like 3 times before they actually
we shouldn't have seen it. It should have been. We shouldn't have
seen her arsenal. So I agree with that. They revealed their hand very quickly.
Right. Like how much better do you think the movie would have been if, because on top of seeing her with all this military training and like shooting guns and like having this bunker and stuff, we then also see the really mentally torn down like PTSD version of her. And I think the movie would have been so much better if they just stuck with that. If they showed the audience this is where she's at for the entire movie, then at the very end it's revealed that nope, that's not where she is at all.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it might have been producer wise, if they were trying to attract people, because if you remember when trailers played to this in theaters, it was really focused around Laurie being this badass. So they needed to either play that in the trailers to attract people or not play it at all. And then, like you said, reveal it at the very end. So I think they didn't have much of a choice to keep it a secret.
I do think some of it has to do with the marketing, because if you think about it, if they released a trailer for this movie, sure, it would draw in people like, oh, Jamie Lee Curtis is back, John Carpenter's executive producing, like it's going to bring people, who are already interested in the franchise back to theaters to watch it. But adding that extra little level in the trailers of, ooh, there's a twist where there's a potential Laurie's going to kill Michael. Like she's been training, she's ready. Like that, I think that does get more butts in the seats. It does have more of there's this level of like, just twist and action to the movie that we haven't seen before is going to bring in more people. But
I mean, that's also kind of stupid because like nowadays we're learning more and more that like there's always going to be fans. So the butts in the seats is going to happen regardless. Like there was rumors that Spider-Man wasn't going to have a trailer at all, and we were all fine with it. We would actually like that more because then you don't ruin the movie. I think they'll learn going forward, and it might happen, going forward.
Yeah. All right, so we can keep going on.
So Myers gets sent on a transfer bus where the city intends on sending him to another facility as his last and final transfer. And of course, this takes place right before Halloween. And of course, he breaks out, killing most of the other inmates and deputies in the process. Myers tracks down the podcasters to the gas station / mechanic shop, conveniently, and
as every gas station in Illinois, I guess, in middle of nowhere, Illinois, is also a mechanic shop.
I think he just kind of stops at this same gas station in every single movie. Like he's friends with the owner who he kills every time, and kind of like this relationship. He brutally murders the mechanics and the podcasters. And then he dons on his infamous outfit of a blue mechanic jumpsuit and gets his mask out of the podcaster's car. and he does not call an Uber. He drives to get back to Haddonfield.
Oh, he doesn't know how to drive. He calls an Uber.
Was it a full jumpsuit though? Because I remember him wearing like a jacket as well.
I'm pretty sure it's a full mechanic jumpsuit.
Okay.
Yeah. That's always his uniform.
These killing scenes were, I thought it was really good to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because in this first bit of the movie, like they don't actually show us all of the kills, which I thought was like a smart choice to kind of like build the tension.
Yeah.
And it really shows just how messed up Michael is, because we see, I think like the actual gas owner. No, he's just kind of down by his computer bleeding. But I think one of the mechanics, their jaws just like ripped open.
Yeah, that was.
I was like, what the hell?
The effects, the practical effects on that guy's jaw looks so damn good.
And you're just like, okay, so he's been busy.
Mm-hmm. Did you notice how though when Dana first went to the bathroom, or no, actually, so when the podcasters roll up to the gas station, you see Michael driving by in the car. Like I love, like there's so many little things in this sequence where you see Michael in the background, and I love that they did that because that's such a good way of building up tension, building up like energy, building up horror. Like you know what's coming.
And this is classic Michael, because you know all the previous movies, it's all about Michael being in the background, and he just pops up. And
yep, but it's very I would say with this movie versus some of the other ones though, just like. The camera techniques are way better. The directing is way better. Like camera positioning is way better. And it's almost like Hitchcockian. Like there's something that Hitchcock did a lot in his movies where the audience, you see something's happening in the background, or like, you know, something that the characters don't know. And it helps build up tension. Like you're like, oh my God, he's right there. You also see, so after you see Michael drive by, then when Dana goes to the bathroom and Aaron's filling up the car, he like, at the first time I saw this, I didn't think anything of it. It took like 3 viewings to actually notice what was going on. But Aaron looks up at the girl sitting in the car. There's this random chick sitting in the car, and her eyes go like this. And so she's motioning that, hey, I just saw this dude in a white jumpsuit walk into the mechanic station. And Aaron just goes, I think he like waves or something. He's like,
yeah, he's an idiot.
Yeah,
he deserves to die.
But then also, there's this weird thing of like, why didn't she say something? And that thought kind of brings me back to like almost like a Friday the 13th and some of the other Halloween movies, or like any horror movie where, you know, the town or whatever, the townspeople are in on it. You know, it kind of made me feel like, oh, she's just like, or Texas Chainsaw. That's what I was thinking of, where like everyone knows what's going on. They just don't do anything about it. Kind of gave me that vibe. So I don't know if it was just like a little callback, a little homage to those classic horror movies, or nothing.
Yeah, she might have known like about the history of Michael, or even knew that was him, and she's like, oh hell no, I'm not talking about this.
Or she's probably just like, it's COVID, I ain't talking to you, but I'm gonna try to tell you. Like there's something going on.
Are you glad that Danny McBride resisted the urge to like go full comedy on this? Because I feel like there was definitely some scenes where he could have added jokes to, or they could have gone for a laugh. I was just thinking how hilarious it would be if like when Dana is going to the restroom and Michael walks in, like she knows this is some creepy figure. What if he like kicked the door down and she just like shit herself?
I mean, she probably did. Yeah. So I mean, getting into that scene, like what a terrifying way to die. If you think about it. Like you're trying to take a shit in peace at this nasty ass gas station, and all of a sudden you just see, you know, you hear the boots. Like she doesn't see him at first, and then he comes up and checks every stall. And I really like the way this scene is shot, because like she's sitting there taking her shit. Clearly she's not peeing, she's pooping. So Mike busts open the door. He's probably like, oh, but it's like super silent, and you just see the footsteps. And then you get these really medium close-ups of her, you know, on the toilet, and then cuts back to Michael walking closer, cuts back to her, him opening a stall. She's like, oh, okay, you know, someone's just trying to use a stall. Then he goes to the next stall, and it cuts back to her, and you can see on her face, like, something's not right here. Something's up. And it was so well directed.
It was so
And
dramatic.
yeah, and then he finally comes up to her stall. The camera gets closer, and you get extreme close up of her face, and you get to see her reaction. I just thought it was like so well shot and like so well
I love
directed.
how politely though he tries to like open it, and she's like, "I'm in here," and then he like stops what he's doing, and then it takes like a couple more beats before he actually tries to like break it down. Or no, he dumps those teeth over the
Yeah,
top.
that's so. I remember. I think the first trailer I ever saw for this movie, I remember seeing the parts of this scene, and I was like, "What the fuck? This is twisted." And I remember thinking like, "Oh, it kind of sucks that they revealed this in the trailer because it's such a cool shot." But even watching it in the movie, it still works.
Yeah, because you don't have that context.
Hmm.
What a terrible position to be in, though. Like, there's no way out of this stall. Like,
Yeah,
all you have to do is crawl under. And then I was thinking the whole time, like, to have to crawl under, you're in an even worse position because
I
as soon as he
know.
kicks one of those things open, he can just smash your head in.
Yeah, and I mean, basically, he does that. Like, she crawls under, and then he just goes to the next stall and drags her out. And the worst part is, she didn't even get to wipe her poopy butt. She still, she just had to pull her pants up. She got poop everywhere. And it's a gas station bathroom. You know, the floor's covered in piss and shit. She had to crawl through it. Like, what a terrible way to die.
It would have been amazing if she didn't die, if the two of them actually lived through this scene.
Mhm.
And then we had like a conversation later in the car, like, I am gross as fuck right now.
I need a shower, please.
Yeah.
But of course, you know, Michael grabs her from under the stall, and then she starts screaming for Aaron. Aaron busts in there with a crowbar after finding, you know, the dead mechanics and stuff, and
Yeah. Good luck.
busts in there with a crowbar. And I really liked this part of the scene. He's been kind of an asshole character the entire time, but you know, just like him, the way he's defending Dana, it's like he's a good person and he knows he's gonna die. Like he shows up, sees what's going on, and says, "Michael," and then goes in and strikes him with the crowbar, and Michael fucks him up.
God, he put the
So
hands on
brutal.
him.
Yeah, he like just straight up picks him up by the head, smashes him in the wall, and
My favorite part of this though is when he's like laying down over by the wall, kind of just bleeding out, and he has to watch Dana
Yeah.
get choked out, and he knows he can't do anything.
yeah, it's so brutal. Like such a great scene. Like, such a, if anything about this movie, like this is one of the best scenes, best sequences of the film. Like it's amazing.
Definitely.
And I do think, I don't know how much you remember the Rob Zombie one, but I think this is paying homage to the 2007 Halloween remake by Rob Zombie, where really similarly, Michael, when he first breaks out of the Smith's Grove, by getting his mechanic jumpsuit, he goes to a gas station, like where truckers fill up, kills the trucker, gets his jumpsuit. Oh, no. Actually, he breaks into the gas station, goes to the bathroom where Joe Grizzly is taking a shit. Michael goes up and he knocks on the door, and Joe Grizzly's like, he's like, "I'm taking a shit in here, like take your shit somewhere else or something." And then Michael just keeps knocking harder and harder and harder. And then
God.
Joe Grizzly sitting there taking a shit, reading a porno magazine. He's like, "All right, hold up." So he puts the magazine down, pulls his pants up, opens the door, and he's like, "I'm Joe Grizzly, bitch." And then fucking starts a fist fight. I almost said Michael Jackson, Michael Myers. And then Michael also brutally kills him and then takes his jumpsuit. And I have to think that they were, this has to be some type of homage to that, because that was a great scene also. You know, moving along in the plot, I kind of skipped certain things that aren't really relevant too much to the overall story. Like we learn a little bit about Allison and her relationship to her grandma Laurie, where you know they're estranged. Allison wants to learn more, wants to be a part of her grandma's life, but
Karen's a fucking liar.
yep, Karen lies to her constantly, like, "Oh yeah, I reached out to grandma. She's in, you know, she's at the senior center or whatever." And then we meet Allison's shitty group of friends, which I hated all of these characters. I think they're all so stupid, and they're clearly here for cannon fodder. They're here just to be dead bodies. But
The chick had some funny moments, the
Yeah.
other lady.
And then in all of this, there's a really cool scene that's paying direct homage to the original Halloween, where Allison's in her class and her teacher's lecturing about something, and it cuts from Allison sitting down in class, and then she looks out the window, and it cuts to Laurie standing outside across the street, which is a direct, copy of the original scene where Laurie's sitting in class, her teacher's lecturing. She looks out the window, and Michael's standing there.
Of action Collins took, he was destined to his own fate, his own day of reckoning with himself. The idea is that destiny is a very real, concrete thing that every person has to deal with. How does Samuel's view of fate differ from that of Costain? Laurie? Ma'am?
So this movie's really good at doing stuff like that. There's a couple more throughout the movie that stuff like that happens, but I really liked that. But outside of that, not much really important things happen through the rest of this time. There's this really weird scene where when we see Michael breaking out of the transfer bus and like all the inmates escaped and stuff, and he killed a bunch of people. How do you feel about that scene where we're introduced like this dad and his son like sitting in the car talking about how the son has to miss ballet practice to go hunting or something?
Shove that down our throats, why don't you?
It was so unnecessary. Like it's so
it felt forced.
Yeah. And then but the dialogue did kill me though. Like there's a part where where the dad, like, I think when he stops the car when they almost hit the inmate, and he's like, "What the hell happened to you, Hoss?" I was like, who uses Hoss?
Oh my God. Yeah, then, I mean, I thought it was cool. Mostly just the imagery and like the fog use. And,
yeah, it looked great.
But the prior dialogue was a little bit cheesy, and I did like when the son finally got out, and I was really surprised when he got out with the hunting rifle. And I was like, oh shit, he had that right next to him. Like,
hey, I mean, they did just go hunting, right?
Yeah. So I thought it got creepier, and it was better by the end. But
yeah, did you notice that apparently the kid's name was Lumpy? Like when the dad was getting out of the car, he's like, "You stay here, Lumpy. You stay here. Call the cops." It's like, Lumpy? What the fuck? I had to rewind that to make sure I saw that and heard that right. But yeah, it's Lumpy. That's one of my kind of overall feelings of this movie is with the cannon fodder. There's a lot of poor dialogue and poor characterization. Like, I get it. In all these slasher movies, you have to have people that, you meet for more than a second to build up the body count. And I like that. But there's also doing it just to do it and doing it well. I feel like it's hard for movies to do it well with this type of story where you're just upping the body count. And like all of Allison's friends, I really didn't care about, except for her friend, the babysitter. Like these people, I don't know, I just really didn't care about. On Halloween night, Myers begins his murderous rampage, hunting down Laurie Strode, killing dozens of people. Or maybe they just coincidentally came across each other. I don't know. I feel like the film doesn't really answer this question. How do you feel about that? Is it just coincidence
that they didn't meet up that soon, did they?
No. So Michael, he returns to Haddonfield to start killing people, but it's not really explicitly said if he's actually hunting down Laurie, or if he's just there to kill more people. I think people with the background knowledge of the series kind of put together like there is this bond between them that because she's kind of like the one that got away, he's going to go back for her.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of coincidence, and I think it was a little bit of him hunting. I think he was going through some of the old homes. Was one of the homes that he went into and killed that random lady the original house, or
no? I think that's just all random.
Okay, because I didn't know if he was like going like house to house looking for Laurie, or if he was just on a killing spree.
I think he's just like, it's like when you go on a fast or something and you haven't eaten in 2 days and then you get really, really hungry after, you're just like, I'm going to eat everything. So that's how Michael feels. He's like, I've been locked up for 40 years. I got all this pent up energy. I got to start killing. Yeah. And I did really like the scene though, where it's like the camera tracks and follows him. Of course, there's a throwback to the original movie where we first see him walking up and the camera's like kind of below where you don't see his head, and the kids run into him, and he doesn't kill the kids. That's directly from the first movie. And
So I have a note about that. What's his killing age? Like, what's the cutoff? Because he didn't kill those kids, but he's fine. I think he killed a baby inside that home.
and he
Or maybe
killed
he
that
left
other
it.
kid.
He might have left
Lumpy.
the baby alive. Yeah.
He killed Lumpy. Yeah, I thought maybe the purpose of that entire scene with Lumpy was to show that this Michael doesn't fuck around. He kills anybody. But then he didn't kill these kids, and so I don't know. It's dealer's choice.
Did he kill that baby, or did he leave it? I think he might have killed it.
No.
All right.
But this was a really cool scene, though. It was done like almost one shot style, where the camera just kind of follows him, and then you see everything he's doing in one fluid motion. A lot of cool little shots, like when he walks into the shed and he picks up the hammer and then goes into the house. And I like that you don't see him killing the old woman. You just hear the sounds of it. It's so brutal. And then, of course, he goes to the next house and he finds the kitchen knife and then he slits the woman's throat. And it was a pretty cool way to, again, up the body count. But I thought it was done better than, them trying to characterize these nobody people who get killed anyways. The local sheriff works with Laurie to hunt for Myers, as they now know about his escape. They believe Myers will come for Laurie and her family, as she was the one that got away. I put that in there as I kind of came up with that. Like, they don't really say, like, you kind of get an understanding of Laurie and the sheriff's relationship, and how they've dealt with this for a long time. I think he was a deputy back when it first happened or something. I actually don't remember clearly. So if someone can correct me, please comment. Yeah, they believe Myers will come for Laurie and her family, as she was the one that got away. Laurie, her daughter Karen, and Karen's husband Ray, that's who Ray is, Karen's husband, lock themselves up at Laurie's hideout and send the sheriff out to find Allison. The sheriff, partnered with Dr. Sartain for whatever reason, tracks down Allison and load her in the squad car. They come across Myers and the sheriff runs him over, intending to kill him, ending the nightmare of Halloween.
So what do you feel about like Laurie showing up at Karen's house and kind of like, or no, that might have been way earlier when she tries to explain to them how their house isn't suited.
Oh yeah,
well
when she just busted in.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is another little thing where I wish they would have just cut it and then kept it to the end, and not showing that she's this like, hyper vigilant, like you got to be prepared for everything.
Mm-hmm. And then did you skip over all like the prom stuff and her walking through the shortcut with the fat friend? Yeah,
I guess all that happens, but it's just not really that necessary to play. It's just adding more dead bodies, just upping the body count of her stupid friends.
It was just weird. Like they had to create other storylines to get to the other storyline, like making it so that her boyfriend was a dick in the end and cheated on her, just so that she could walk with the other guy. Like,
yeah, and then her boyfriend disappears from the rest of the movie.
Yeah, he's alive.
I know. Of course, in the trailers for the new movie, we see he's in it. So I'm guessing that they, have more storylines set up. Yeah, he's definitely in it. And
I liked the bigger dude who gets killed.
Oh, the friend.
Yeah, I thought he was funny. I don't know if he was exactly right for this movie. Like the relationship between him and Allison was kind of just weird.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cool kill, but he could have done that without them doing all this, exposition.
Yeah, it's just like I think the characters were just poorly written. Like, yeah, like I know why they're there. I know they're setting up Allison as a teenager, going through all these things, like high school things. Like we skipped over the dinner that they throw for Allison for her getting into the honor society or whatever. And when Laurie shows up and we see more of her, like how traumatized she is by the experience, and they're just, I don't know.
But I feel like it would have been cooler if they like would have killed 4 or 5 more students. Like if he was just at the dance and he was killing people in the background.
Right. If he was like there hunting Allison or something, like he just knew like she was there. Like, yeah. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm just going to hope that they're setting up, these little things to pay off later, like the relationship with her boyfriend to pay off later in the next movie or the next movie or something.
The one good payoff that we did get, though, which might have been my favorite scene, was the lights on, lights off bit.
Yeah. So when
that was good.
So when Allison is leaving the prom, the Halloween dance with her chubby friend, they like hop over this guy's fence, and then her chubby friend tries to like make out with her, and she's like, "What the fuck? Back off!" and storms off, and then hops over another fence to get out. He's like drunk, so he's like falling over, and we see Michael in the background, and there's like censored floodlights that turn on and off, and we see Michael, and then he shows up closer. Yeah, it was a pretty brutal kill when Allison runs back and sees her friend with like the fence thing through his skull, like pretty cool. And then that leads up to Allison getting picked up by the sheriff, and I just
in the squad car.
It really doesn't make sense that Dr. Sartain's in the car. Like he just decided to tag along. Like I don't think in any real situation that would have happened.
The chief or whoever made the sheriff take him with him, since he's the expert.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't buy it.
Yeah,
like
it was rushed for sure.
It was just, I don't know. How do you feel about Sartain's character as a whole? Because of course now this is where we get the twist of when the sheriff runs over Mike, and then he goes up and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to finish him. I'm not going to let him live like last time or whatever." And then Dr. Sartain's like, "No, don't touch him." And he pulls out this fucking James Bond, Dr. Evil style knife pen. Like, do they sell these on Amazon or something? Like, they sell these at the psychiatrist store? Like,
yeah, I thought that was all bullshit. Like,
so stupid.
You would not have some surprise switchblade knife hiding in your pen. And I can see him turning into a murderer after like studying this psychopath for 40 years.
But he didn't learn anything from him. Michael hasn't said a word. What is it? Where is this like dementia? Where is this like madness coming from? You know?
I think they could have pulled it off a little bit differently. I think it was very rushed. Like him flipping the script that quickly was just weird.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to go for the shock value, because the entire movie they're building him up like he's just the next Dr. Loomis. And if you remember Dr. Loomis, he was like the psychiatrist for Michael Myers before, who was obsessed with him and like thought that he was, you know, a demon, the devil. He was like just this force to be reckoned with. And he spent his entire life hunting him down and trying to kill him and never succeeded. And so I think they're just trying to like give us this shock value twist. Like, oh, you think it's going to be another Dr. Loomis? Psych. No, it's not. He wants to be, you know, in the eyes of a killer. And wasn't that clever.
So, however, Dr. Sartain had other plans for that night. He goes for Michael's body and discovers that he is still alive. Very Harry Potter-ish. He probably knew the pulse was still there. The sheriff tells Sartain to move so that he can shoot Myers in the head and finish him once and for all. But Sartain pulls out that knife that we were just talking about and kills the sheriff. His obsession over Michael drove him to madness, as he wants Michael alive so that he can learn all about him. Myers eventually wakes up and, oh my God, this is the only part I didn't proofread. He tells the doc he doesn't give a shit about him by curb stonking him into oblivion. He then makes his way to Laurie's base, where they have a final-ish showdown in a fight to the almost death, where Laurie, Karen, and Allison managed to trap Michael.
Strap him down. Kinky.
They trap him in the bunker, where Laurie planned on capturing Michael for years. They release the gas into the bunker and light the house on fire, ending the Halloween horror in Michael Myers. Or did they? So they kind of have a lot to break down in this last scene.
One thing I do want to bring up that we also skipped over, because it was kind of didn't really add much to the story, just up the body count again, was
that sassy kid.
Yeah, the sassy kid Julian, one of the best characters in the movie,
for sure. It
just didn't fit into this movie, you know. Like I really appreciated his character. It added a lot of levity, but it was just like, it just felt strange. Like, just didn't really feel necessary to any part of the movie. But you know, whatever. It's still a highlight for me. One of Allison's friends, she babysits for this little kid named Julian, who's really funny and like clipping his nasty ass toenails.
That's amazing. And then her saying that he was like her least favorite kid that she babysits now.
Yep. And then
I thought her best friend was gay this whole time.
Oh yeah. I mean, she talked about dry fucking the dude, Dave.
I guess not.
And so there's this whole scene where her friend is babysitting Julian. She puts Julian to sleep, and Julian's like, "Oh, there's something in the closet. Like, can you come check the closet and tuck me in or whatever?" And there's this funny line where he's like, "There's a fucked up face standing outside my door." This kid is so funny. Like, I would watch a little side project of just Julian, you know?
Yeah.
Like
I thought it was a
Babysitter
missed
Chronicles.
opportunity though. Because I was expecting, this is again like where I was expecting Michael to be like in the closet or somewhere and to kill her immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But then he actually moved on to go into the garage, and so he kills Dave first.
Wait, no, that's not what happens. No, he is in the closet. Because remember, Julian's like, "Oh, close the closet," and then what's her face goes and tries to close the closet, and then
okay,
his foot's like in the door, and
doesn't he say like "oh shit" or something? Because I have that as a note.
Yeah. So after that happens, which I think they shouldn't have done this they showed this in the trailers of the entire scene where like she's trying to shut the door and Michael bursts out and kills her. They definitely shouldn't have showed that in the trailers. But yeah, after that happens, so he kills her, and then I think that's when Julian's like, "Oh shit," and runs out and like basically leaves her. And he goes calling for Dave's who's high in the garage messing with the parents of the house's motorcycle. And I was like, this is all so stupid. Like, why is this makes no sense.
And he drops it like an asshole.
Yeah, it's just so unnecessary, you know. And the fucking kid Julian, he's like, "Dave, don't go up there, you're gonna get your ass killed," or something. Like, and then of course Dave gets killed. And yeah, I just thought Julian was a really interesting character to write into this movie. I don't know if he fit in particularly, but either way, I still enjoyed it.
Moving forward, I was a big fan of the Banh Mi PB&J.
Again, so random. Like, I think what they're going for is almost like I want to say like fucking Tarantino type writing. They're trying to imitate Tarantino, where like, you know, he's kind of famous for taking these larger than life characters and having them have normal conversations and make them feel natural. And I'm pretty sure they're trying to write that and imitate it, but it's just not done that well. And I don't know why. Like, that's totally what they're doing. They're trying to like humanize these two sheriff deputies sitting in the car talking about sandwiches, and like one guy is like, "Oh, a peanut butter and jelly banh mi sandwich," and the guy's like, "Oh, I got a brownie." And it's just like, it just kind of threw me off. Like, the writing is just not that great. Like, I think they think that they're more clever than they really are.
The movie could have been a lot tighter if they cut out a lot of these scenes.
Right.
Were you a fan of the head smashing scene though? Oh yeah.
The curb stomping when Mike pulls Sartain onto the ground, and it's just damn. It was
like, God damn.
Yeah. Again, the practical effects in this movie are done really well. I really like the prosthetics and the practical effect work. And then of course, Michael, this is a big plot hole where the two deputies, Michael kills them and then carves one's head out like Leatherface style, and then puts a lantern, puts a flashlight into the guy's head to make it a jack-o'-lantern. And I like this for the shock value, but it's really kind of stupid if you think about it. Like, how long would it take Mike to do this? And like, you think in his head, he's like, "Oh, I gotta prop it up at this angle, and I gotta set it right here." And he's doing math and shit.
It's kind of like those funny TikToks where you see Michael in the background, actually what he's doing. Like how long it would take him to mess with this.
6 hours later.
How did you feel, I think moving a little bit backward, about the scene where Laurie is once again going over her gun closet, showing the guns to Ray and also Karen.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it felt really lame. I thought her performance was pretty good, like for the most part, but then there were some speaking roles where her acting just kind of fell flat, or she was like, and this gun for range, and this gun classic. Like it was just not delivered well for me.
Yeah, going through the arsenal.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mind it. Again, I just thought, I just kept thinking like they could have done it so much better if we just didn't see it. We didn't see it to the moment to where Michael steps foot in the house and all of a sudden she, flips a switch and it's like, like, yeah, it was fine. It was whatever. And then, at the very beginning of this podcast, you're like, oh, I don't know who Ray is. That's the entire movie. Like Ray's there, but he doesn't matter at all.
We're just waiting for him to die.
Right. He has a stupid line in the very beginning where he gets peanut butter on his penis and he says, I got peanut butter on my penis. It's like, what is going on?
Oh, God.
And then when I don't know if you noticed this, but when he finally gets killed, so he's the one, he like steps outside of the bunker. He opens the door of the police cab and he sees the jack-o'-lantern carved out deputy's head. And then Mike comes and kills him. The way Michael kills him is like really boring. Like it's nothing spectacular. I think he just like picks him up and chokes him or breaks his neck or something. And like,
I think he breaks his neck.
Yeah, I feel like it's not even done violently. It was like a wasted death. It was like really stupid. And then Laurie sees Ray get killed. Karen doesn't, but Karen doesn't even know that Ray's not there. Like the entire rest of the movie.
Oh,
it's
she's
like
happy.
I know, he's like, I could do way better than this guy.
Yeah, this is my easy out.
They don't address it at all, that she doesn't ask at any point, like, oh, where's Ray? Or like, oh my God, I'm sad that Ray's dead, my husband.
Yeah,
like
they just kind of
nothing. Afterthought, I guess.
Which that could also be because she's like also dead inside. I mean, they explain how she was raised to be a killer as well. So that could be because of that. But
no, I mean, you have a kid with this guy, like you're married, you have like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know. I'd like to be in the writer's room when they were writing that part out, and there's like at the very end after they finish shooting the movie, like, oh shit, she doesn't know that Ray's dead. Next movie, maybe they'll address in the next movie.
Maybe he's not dead. Maybe he'll be in like a neck harness.
He makes a comment. He's actually going to be the hero of Halloween Ends. And then of course we get this like really badass sequence of Michael entering Laurie's playhouse and her having like all those electronic gates when she goes and clears all the rooms. I thought that was really cool. She was going and checking in all the rooms with the gun, and then she would like, once it was clear, she'd like shut down the gate on each doorway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was another scene where it kind of surprised me and didn't do what I was expecting it to do. Mm-hmm. Because I thought he was going to pop out of somewhere like a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. And then they tricked us by having one of the bodies hidden up in the room. I think it was actually
it was Ray.
Dave. Ray, yeah. And then he pops out a little bit later. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought that was really creepy, and I liked a lot of the setup and like practical stuff that they had laying around.
And then there was this one part where when Laurie first discovers Ray's dead, she's like hiding behind the door with her gun, and then Michael busts in with his hands through the windows of the door and like starts to strangle her. Thought that was really cool. One important thing to come out of that was while Michael's strangling her, she actually manages to turn the shotgun around and blow off some of his fingers. And I think that's really interesting, because if this is a direct sequel to just the first one and none of the others, this is the first time we see him actually suffer any like real lasting bodily harm. Because in the very first one, we see him gets stabbed in the neck with a clothes hanger, and then gets shot a couple times by Dr. Loomis, but then is still alive. Mm-hmm. So at this point, we don't really know what his limits are as far as like, is he something mythical? Can he die? Can he not die? So seeing, like, I think this is important that we actually got to see his fingers blown off, because it's like, it's long lasting. So if that can happen and he doesn't grow them back in the next movie or something, like, I think they're trying to tell us, like, he can die. There's has to be, you have to do it a certain way. I think that's really interesting.
Well, what is interesting though is that we have 2 more sequels.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting to know like how they keep it going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they did trick me though, because I thought that they're going to bring back the when she's explaining the arsenal, she gives the sharpshooter weapon to her daughter, and I thought that she was going to end up like shooting Michael through the door since she had that scoped weapon.
Mm-hmm.
But no, she just kind of hid and was afraid.
And then here we get a lot of callbacks to the first one, where there's a scene where Laurie's searching through the house hunting for Michael, and then Michael's like playing games with her and drips his blood leading up to the closet. So she like goes up and checks the closet, and of course that's if you remember the first one, towards the end of the movie where Laurie's hiding, Michael goes and looks for her in the closet, but twist, he's not in the closet, and then eventually they're fighting on the second level, and Michael gets some good hits on Laurie here. Like, she gets stabbed and cut and beat up, and then he ends up throwing her off the second story balcony onto the ground. And I really, really loved this, because then he looks over, sees her there, and then it cuts away. He looks away, and then when he looks back, she's gone. That's a direct copy of in the original one, the very, very end of the movie, where Dr. Loomis shoots Michael and he falls backwards and he's there. Then the next moment when they look, he's gone. Really, really cool. It's like,
so
nice way to flip the script.
Laurie's turning into Michael throughout this whole movie.
She's the predator, he's the prey. And I really love that dynamic that they went that way. Yeah, then getting to the end when Michael's hunting down Allison Karen, he tracks him down to the underground bunker. When I first saw this twist, I thought it was like, oh, that's pretty cool, pretty unique. On repeat viewings, I was like, I just wish they kept it with Laurie, us not knowing about Laurie, because she's what's important. She's the titular character. She should have this moment, but it went to her daughter Karen, which I imagine again is setting up the sequels. Like, there has to be something here with the sequels. So Karen's like calling out, basically telling Michael like, hey, I'm down here, by saying like, oh, Mom, I can't do it, holding the gun, and like, I don't know if I can shoot him, like, blah, blah, I'm so scared. Michael shows up, and then she's like, gotcha, and then shoots him in the neck, and then he falls down, and her and Allison run up the stairs, and Laurie had this like booby-trapped knife thing covering the doorway of the underground bunker, and turns on all the gas, and then they light the house on fire. And how do you feel about that twist with Karen?
I mean, I thought it was pretty good, but again, like, agreeing with you that like they should have done it with Laurie instead. It got me. I thought she really was scared and she couldn't do it, and then I thought that maybe like Michael was going to pop out and then Laurie would pop out like behind him, which she does eventually, but I thought she would get the kill. So that was pretty interesting. I thought it was pretty interesting that the booby traps were to keep him in, not out. So that was a good twist.
Cool little twist. But I hate that, again, with the script, they spelled it out for us.
Yeah.
Like, we could have assumed this, like, you don't need for the character to actually say, it's not to keep us safe, Allison. It's to lock him in or something. It's like, cut that out. Cut that shit out. This isn't, some PG movie that kids are watching. We understand what's going on.
I thought going forward with sequels that they weren't going to try to kill him. I thought they were going to try to keep him down there and like lock him up. So I thought it was interesting that she released the gas and was going to blow him up. So who knows how he's going to get out of there? He's probably just going to break through those wood stakes because he has. You haven't
seen the trailers for the new one?
No.
Maybe it's better that you don't.
Yeah.
Because they show a lot in the most recent trailer, and I'm hoping that.
Does it spoil a lot?
Well, no. So they show a lot of Michael killing people. Like, there's a lot of death in the trailers, and I'm just fingers crossed that they're not showing like we didn't see almost all the kills in the trailer because there's a lot. So I'm hoping the body count's just like tripled and they're just giving us a tease because it's going to be crazy. I'm really excited for this new one.
Yeah.
Well, I guess anything else story-wise, plot-wise that we missed that you want to wrap up here?
I think that's it. I think we got into quite a lot of the behind-the-scenes killing and the plot and thoughts about that.
Yeah, and I do think that a lot of elements here are set up for the next one because the way the movie ends is Allison, Laurie, and Karen, they're like running away from the house that's completely on fire. We're to think that Michael's dead. And they hitchhike on the back of a truck and they're sitting there on the truck all huddled up and crying and stuff. And then the final shot is of the bloody knife that Allison's holding. And I personally think that that'd be a great way, and this is probably how they're going to do it, to start the next movie is picking up on the exact same shot of the bloody knife and then zooming back out, because I'm pretty sure the next movie it picks up immediately after these moments. And we know that the boyfriend's still alive. They must have forgot about him in the script or something. He's definitely going to come back. We see him in the trailers. Yeah, I mean, Sartain's dead. The sheriff's dead. Like, although that other, I don't know who the black guy, the guy with the giant cowboy hat. Who was he? I don't even know who he was.
Oh, he was hip.
State police maybe, but he's still alive as far as we know. So he's probably going to have a role, unless they just forgot about him as well. Yeah. Well, I guess then we can just start getting into our ratings, our thoughts. Do you want to kick it off?
Yeah. So for this one, we're doing a more normal styled rating. For those of you who have listened to our Supernatural episodes, we've been doing kind of a like a 4 rating style. But for this, we'll just kind of do 1.
We will rank all the movies though.
Oh yeah.
We absolutely have to rank the movies.
So I gave it an 8 because I thought it was really solid. A lot of good history in these movies and a lot of homages in this newest one. So I thought it was very solid. There was some like little things in the writing that we've already talked about, but I don't think they were big enough to where it would knock down points for me or skew my opinion. So yeah, I thought it was just solid. It's not necessarily a horror movie. Like it wasn't scary by any means for me, that is. But it's creepy and it's a thriller. So I thought it was very entertaining.
Yeah, it's definitely got some more action thriller elements than maybe some of the others have.
Yeah.
One new scoring category I do want to add for this series specifically is best kill.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about best kill.
Yeah. What do you think the best kill, whether it's gore wise, whether it's just violence wise, like way it's shot?
It's either the lady getting the hammer to the head with
that
the
we don't
filming
see
and everything that goes into, or it's one of the ones where he stabs someone through the head.
Oh yeah, are you thinking about when he's doing just the random killings when the lady like goes up to the window and he like stabs her through the neck?
Yeah.
That's
so the
pretty
first
good.
2.
Okay. What about worst kill? Like stupidest, like useless kill?
Trying to think. I don't know. Maybe either Ray or the kid getting killed, just because it wasn't like exciting or crazy.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, best kill. I was gonna say Aaron, but now that I think about it, I don't think Aaron's dead. They don't show him actually, because the last we see of him, he's still in the bathroom. He's still alive. I wonder if he's going to come back.
He
in the
could
next
be,
movie.
or he couldn't be.
I'm gonna say, because they didn't wrap it up in us seeing he's dead, I'm gonna say he's gonna be back in one of the other ones. Maybe he has the final say, like a final kill, or Michael or something.
All right.
If he was it, I'd say his was pretty good, because that just the sheer brutality of it. Like, but then outside of him, I'd say the mechanic with his jaw. Like, we don't see it happen, but just like you can envision like how fucked up it was. So I thought that was really, really cool. And then the worst one, probably Ray, because it's just like a nothing. It's not even a close-up shot. I think it's like a far away shot. We just see of Michael holding him up and breaking his neck, and it was dumb. As far as ratings for the movie goes, I remember. So, did you see this one in theaters when it came out? No. I remember seeing this one, I think opening day, not opening night, so not Thursday, but a Friday night at the Hollywood Theater. And I had a hell of a time with this movie. I was so excited. There's so much hype for it. Been a fan of the series most of my life, and I was really, really looking forward to it. Seeing on the big screen with an auditorium full of people was just such a fun experience.
Yeah.
Really, really enjoyed the movie. Thought it, had a lot of curveballs, a lot of things I didn't expect. On repeat watches, I think every time I watch it, I like certain things a little less every time. Like for me, it's just the characters more and more, like, because being a fan of the entire series, there's a lot of throwaway characters in all these movies, but sometimes they stick out like a sore thumb. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just like passable, like, okay, they're here to die. For some reason, I think just because the writers were trying to like subvert our expectations and like have these cool, unique, modern style characters, they just, I don't know, they stuck out like a sore thumb to me this time around. And a lot of the dialogue from them just felt unnecessary and forced, and maybe it's a combination of bad acting, bad directing, bad writing. I'm not quite sure what it is. Outside of those things, everything else about this movie is just on point. It's stellar. It's from the pacing, from the kills, from the tension, from the camera work, from, most of the other acting, like with the podcasters, like that entire part with them was so good. And it was done in almost like have you seen Hitchcock's Psycho?
I've seen bits.
So one thing that movie did really well was you follow like the first half of the movie almost. You follow this character, and then she dies halfway through, and you're like, oh shit, she was the main character. She's dead. Yeah. And that's how this movie made me feel. It's like, oh, I thought these podcasters are going to be a big part of this movie, because we start off with them, they go along for like, they're in the movie for like a good 30, 40 minutes, and then they die or not die. And stuff like that, I just thought was done so well, so clever. And I really, really liked what they did with Laurie's character, and how, we've seen so much of her throughout the entire series, and she died in one of the movies, and she like had a kid, had family, and like all these other story beats with her. The most similar would be H2O, where it was like, I think this movie pulled a lot from, where she was kind of similar. She was like an alcoholic dealing with her past trauma and stuff. And I just really liked Jamie Lee Curtis's portrayal of Laurie this time around, being like so mentally fucked up. And the way that the character was written, like you can see it because of her acting, and you can feel it from her acting and the writing. And I just thought they did really, really good with her character this time around. So I think, shitty character writing aside, shitty dialogue aside, I do still really enjoy this movie, but I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. I'm stuck between like 6.5 to 7, and I'll give it a 7, just because if it's ever on TV, I'll watch it. If it's Halloween time, Halloween season, I'll put it on. Like it's really entertaining. I've seen it 3 or 4 times. It still builds a lot of tension. It's like I still look forward to the great parts of this movie, and they they kind of overshadow the bad parts of this movie. So I'm hoping if what you said before about their release schedule and learning from the mistakes, I'm hoping that they listen to some of the feedback from people, maybe listen to our podcast and hear some feedback, and they'll fix some of those poor writing choices of characterization. Like, you're not Tarantino, guys. Like, don't try to imitate him. He's got his own style. Just be your own thing. I 7 out of 10 for me, I think, is a good place where this fits. And nice. I'm looking forward for the next one. Of course, let's see. Today is August 27th. I think, let me see what the release date is for Halloween Kills. So Halloween Kills got pushed back to, where is the freaking date? Hang on, stick with me. Why is it at the bottom of IMDb? October 15th, 2021. So that'll be 3 years, almost exactly 3 years from the release of the other one, which is funny because when they were planning to release these, it was going to be 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. Mm-hmm. So let's see if we have enough time, we can try to get all of these in before doing Halloween Kills. We'll see what our schedules look like, but I mean, that'd be pretty cool. If let me look at the timeline and see what we'd have to work with.
We'll see.
Yeah, but otherwise, wherever it fits in our timeline, like we said at the start, we're moving backwards. So if we're doing, the next movie we're doing is H2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and then it'd be Rob Zombie's Halloween, and then back and back and back. Wherever Halloween Kills fits in that timeline, we'll be doing that next. And so it could fit in anywhere, working backwards. Hopefully, fingers crossed we'd be able to make through all of it, but maybe not. And then, what's up?
Oh, nope. I was just waiting for you to be done. Oh,
yeah. Along the road, if you guys have any comments, any ideas, if you hate that we're doing this backwards and you think it's like blasphemy, you can tell us. Let us know. I like to hear it. Or if
you can also just wait for all of them to be done and released, and then you can go the other way and fix the timeline. Anyone
can do that. You can go like the Now Playing guys. Shout out to Now Playing podcast. If you haven't listened to them, they're amazing. They've done all the horror, movie series in chronological order. Kind of Funny podcast. We listen to them a lot, and they haven't done the Halloween series. Maybe eventually, but yeah, I feel like unique.
So going past the movie, what have you been watching recently? Anything good out?
Right now we're watching. No, not Free Guy. We're watching Haunting of Hill House. Haven't seen that yet, and on Netflix. It's pretty good. It's directed and written by Mike Flanagan, who's kind of done some like smaller horror movies. Yeah, I like it. There's 10 episodes in the first season, and for the first part of the season, each episode followed like a different family member from this big family that lived in the haunted house, and it's a pretty unique, interesting storytelling style. And if you haven't seen it, I'd recommend it. Outside of that, I think I don't have HBO Max anymore, so I was going to try to finish Game of Thrones, but I can't watch all of Game of Thrones, and
you're missing out. I've been watching Titans on there. That's a good show.
I've seen, I think, most of season 1, and yeah, I think a lot of people shit on it, but I find it entertaining, like seeing these live action characters. Yeah. I like the guy who plays Robin, or Dick Grayson. He's good.
Alice and I have started rewatching the Jurassic Park series. That's a huge recommend.
Nice.
I think it lives up to its hype, and it's a very good movie.
Not Jurassic World, though.
Oh, Jurassic World is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
All right, next in review, Jurassic World.
I remember actually seeing Jurassic Park 3. I had to drag my mom and my sister to watch Jurassic Park 3 in theaters. And
What
it
year
came
was
out,
that?
I think it's 2005. Let me make sure. Let me see if my knowledge is correct. It might be,
So
it's 2005 or 2004.
I thought it was 93, 98, and then 2001.
No way, it was
Oh.
2001. Jurassic Park. So let's see, 93 was the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, it was 2001?
Ah, gotcha.
I was 6 years old and I dragged my mom
Psychopath.
to take me to see Jurassic Park 3 because it was rated R, I'm pretty sure. No, oh, this one's PG-13.
Oh.
Well, anyways, it would have been way better if it was rated R, these movies. But yeah, I guess my memory failed me. But those are fun movies. Those are definitely fun.
Good stuff happening out in the film world.
Yep. Yeah, outside of that, there's a new James Wan horror movie called Malignant coming out soon. I don't know if you've seen the trailer, but that looks really good. I would recommend watching that. And James Wan, I trust anything he does, really. Like, if his name is attached to something, he's got my money. Like, I think he's a good filmmaker and has a lot of unique styles and likes to play around with expectations and the camera and stuff. And yeah, anything else?
I don't think so. We've got new episodes coming up of Supernatural in between. So if you can't wait for the next Halloween movie, go start watching some of the Supernatural episodes that we've posted.
Yeah, so we have right now we're up to Hookman was the last one that we had out, and yeah, I've got a couple more. I've got some on the backlog, just been moved across the country, so figuring out work and living stuff has been difficult, and sorry that we haven't kept up as much as we used to, but we're settled now and we're starting to get back into it. I'm really excited to do this movie series and to get back into Supernatural and throw some other stuff in here and there. And of course, again, if you guys have any ideas, any comments on what you think we should cover, things that we're messing up, any criticisms, or you just want to say, hey, like, hit us up, tell us, shoot us a comment, shoot us a message. Where can they find us?
They can mostly find us on Instagram and Facebook. You can try to reach out to us on Twitter, but we might not respond. So yeah, those are the two best ones, at Scaryscifisluts on all those platforms.
And then if you're an audio listener, we're hosted on Podbean. So you can download our episodes there. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and
all the podcasts.
Yeah, we've been making more of a foray into video recently, though. So video's been kind of our big thing, and that's why it takes me so long to get these episodes live. Is because I go through and I edit our video recordings, and then I have to export all that, and then also edit the audio and export that separately. So it takes quite a bit that goes into each episode. But check out our channel. Let me see how many subscribers we're at now. We hit pretty big. We hit the jackpot on one of our videos. So a couple months ago or whatever, sometime last year, we reviewed the Blade trilogy, and our Blade review for the first one, we're at 190,000 views. So thank you everyone who's watching our videos.
Yeah, we're so close to 1 million.
So close. And as far as subscribers go on YouTube, we're at 1.64 thousand subscribers. I don't know who any of you are, but thank you.
Would y'all post a comment or two so we know you're real? Like, Jesus, that's quite a bit to not have any interaction.
It's fine. If you just enjoy the content, watch the content, like us, subscribe, it helps us get seen on YouTube, on the the podcasting platforms, and eventually down the road, if this keeps up with popularity and stuff, then we can set up Patreon and do some extra level stuff. Like we can maybe create some merch, come up with some cool ideas for like stickers or shirts or something, and then
yeah,
extra features for people who are willing to donate to keep us running. Because right now, Brandon and I, we do this just for fun, just because we love TV, we love movies and entertainment and stuff, and we both do have to work full-time jobs, so keeps us busy. And then some. Yep. Especially OnlyFans now cutting off a lot of their porn.
Gotta find a third job.
But yeah, this has been a great episode. Anything else you want to add, Brandon?
Nope. Thanks for tuning in as always, and we appreciate it. So keep listening.
And of course, stay scary and stay sexy.
He's waited for this night. He's waited for me. I've waited for him. Get out the room! Get inside! You don't believe in the boogeyman? He's here! Michael! You should.